time to hit the previews.
Dude, here we go. Grove versus Fort Loramie. Grove is a heavy favorite in this game. Barrazas, obviously, we just talked about him, but they, got a new quarterback. So I'm sure Fort Loramie is going to try to do whatever they can to stack the box and take Barraza away. This is the first time these two teams have ever played. Look that up. That's opening.
Anytime that teams that are this close, like we've had that happen a couple of times, it's always been a shock. Like, how do these guys avoid each other?
The Fort Loramie is going to rely on Hart and company to lead them through the air. He's leading the conference with 1,400 yards and some change. He's 16 TDs throwing. I think the key for this one is, can Fort Loramie get stops, and can they not turn it over? Next up, Bluffton at Crestview. Bluffton's going to head over to Van Wert County and play Crestview team, who is a significant underdog on paper. I was reading a little bit about Crestview's game, and the coach said they've got a really young offensive line. I'll tell you what, that's going to get tested. Bluffton puts a lot of pressure. They will stack the box, and they will try to make this young quarterback basically carry it on his shoulders. I really think that's what they did to LCC, and I think the weather kind of helped with that, but I don't think they're going to change their mantra. They want to dictate pressure, sure. And it could be a long night for Crestview if they're not prepared to get the ball out of their hands quickly. LCC looking to bounce back. They got Delphus Jefferson. Again, heavy favorite here. Hopefully, Quadman could get back from his limited play that he had last year with his ankle injury. T-Bird struggled on both sides of the ball. I think for them, they've got to figure something out with the line. The Baldoff, the McKee brothers, Sirkovich, Malcolm, they've got to continue to grow, and they've got to continue to create holes. On the other side, the linebackers, it was an issue. They've got to figure out Falky, Purnell, Hefner. By the way, give a little shout out to that kid. He's playing through a really tough shoulder injury, constantly just freaking throwing his body in there and playing as hard as he can. But these guys are going to have to start to continue to grow if they want to make the run that they have, on the paper that they put as their goals for the end of the season. Jefferson is led by Agner, and Coach Bullman, talked about it. We talked about it, Nate. They just have to continue to grow. Overall, Delphus owns a 7-game advantage in this series over the 27 years these teams have played. Allen East at Spencerville, sophomore you talked about on Keegan Jones. He'll head over to Bearcat country as they are a 13-point favorite. Allen East has lost, however, 3 of the last 4 games, and they need to get a victory if they want to get themselves rolling into the postseason. Spencerville, led by quarterback Carter Orr, kind of the same boat. Had some wins early, and they're struggling. So both teams really need to get the 6 wins and guarantee themselves, actually, I kind of said that wrong. 4 is going to get Spencerville's in. So
yeah, I think that will. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this one, I'm gonna circle back on this one in a future segment.
All right. Moving on to the Western Buckeye League. The Elida Bulldogs 2-4 overall, 1-4 in the conference.
Is this a dog battle?
Yeah, it is. They're going to travel over to Defiance. Defiance 4-2 overall, 4-1 in the Western Buckeye League. This is the Battle of the Bulldogs Part 2. Elida won the first matchup against Salina last week, and now they got to go and face the other Bulldog team. But this time they're going to Defiance. Elida had 2 very different games over the last 2 weeks. They lost a game where they scored 56 points, and they won a game where they only scored 17. They're going to really need both sides of the ball playing well this week as they take on a Defiance team that has scored 30 or more in 4 of their 6 games. Elida leads this all-time series 29-22, and they've won 8 of the last 10, including a 19-18 victory last season. I think a lot of people would have considered an upset, especially since that Elida team had lost their starting quarterback at that point and were reeling a little bit. Elida has been led by Amari Walsh this season, who continues to lead the Western Buckeye League in all-purpose yards and has been a game changer in that kick return. Like you said, just stop kicking him the ball. Like, I don't know why teams are making the mistake of putting the ball in his hands. Don't do it. On the other side, Defiance has been leaning on their run game for most of the season, led primarily by Anthony Wilder.
He runs wild.
He is second in the WBL in rushing with 769 yards and 6 touchdowns. Brez Zitveld, he injured his knee at the beginning of the season like we talked about, but he is coming off of his best game. And if he gets things going, that's going to give this Defiance team a whole different dynamic, and people really need to watch out if the passing game is catching up to that.
On this one.
So moving on, the Canton Wildcats 1-5 overall, 1-4 in the WBL. They are going to take on the Wapakoneta Redskins, undefeated, 6-0 overall, 5-0 in the conference. They sit up top the Western Buckeye League heading into this matchup. Kenton has lost the last 3 games by 1 score and has scored 27 or more points in every game this season except for 1. The Wildcats are number 1 in the league with over 480 yards of offense per game, but they are going up against the top defense, or scoring defense at least, who they are giving up less than 14 points per game. I saw it in person. They fly to the ball. They cause havoc. They are a phenomenal defense over there in Wapak. It's easy to see why not a lot of teams are able to get points on them. Meanwhile, Wapak, they are scoring 34 points a game, and you got a Kenton defense that's reeling a little bit. They give up over 30 a game. Something's going to have to give here. This Kenton defense is going to have to find a way to get some stops to give themselves a chance. Wapak leads this series 28-24. Kenton has only won 3 games against them since 2012, and they are currently on a 4-game losing streak in this series. This one, one of the highlights is going to be the 2 of the best quarterbacks in the entire conference, Corbin Johnson and Caleb Moyer. They sit 1 and 2 in the Western Buckeye League in TD passes, QB rating, and completion percentage. Corbin is leading the league in passing yards. Caleb, he is at number 3. However, the big difference there is Caleb Moyer has 50 less attempts than Corbin does. Caleb, probably easily the most efficient quarterback in the entire Western Buckeye League. Should be a great matchup. The road doesn't get any easier for the Indians coming off of that loss to Wapak. They are 2-4 overall, 1-4 in the conference. They are going to be taking on the St. Mary's Rough Riders, 4-2 overall, 3-2 in the Western Buckeye League. And as much as it pains me, this one could be a spotlight game for St. Mary's, as it is a matchup between the top rushing offense and a defense that gives up over 200 yards on the ground a game. St. Mary's, they lead this series 32-10 and have won 9 in a row against the Indians. Like we mentioned, they lost their starting quarterback, and they're going to turn to senior Caleb Bacon. Bacon was a starter last season through the first 4 games.
He's got some experience.
Yeah, he's got some familiarity with all these receivers, and he's going to look to get this offense jump-started. It has only scored a combined 10 points in the last 3 games. They got off to a good start. They were putting points on the board, but the last 3 games, it's gotten difficult. The defense will have to find some way to slow down that 3-headed monster that is Dominic Osborne, Caleb Schmidt, and Colton Mabry. Ottawa Glandorf against Van Wert. OG comes in 3-3 overall, 3-2 in the Western Buckeye League. Van Wert 1-5 overall. They're still looking for their first conference win. They're going to try to match their defensive effort from week 6. Is Ottawa Glandorf, as they're coming off the shutout of Bath. They had Van Wert had a strong defensive game as well. Like we'd mentioned, it was 14-14 there going into the locker rooms at halftime, but things got away from him in that second half. This makes 4 straight weeks that the Van Wert Cougars have scored 14 points. They somehow just can't get over that 14-point hump. Briston Wise continues to lead the Western Buckeye League in rushing after his best game on the ground so far. The pass game has surprisingly been struggling, though. That has been the strength of that Cougar team for a lot of years, and right now they just can't quite seem to get it back on track. They're going to try this week. Ottawa Glandorf, though, they are the top defensive team in the league. They do not give up a lot of yards.
Let's head over to the MAC, right?
Yep.
All right. I got Marion Local heading over to Fort Recovery. We've talked enough about Marion Local, I think, to let you know that they are balanced on the run and in the air. Their quarterbacks,
they're good at football.
Yeah, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. Knauf is he's in the top 5 in throwing yards. They got the leading receiver. They do a rushing by committee. The Indians, however, are led by Reese Wendell, who leads the conference in rushing yards. Fort Recovery does not throw the ball very often, so excuse me. This is going to be a very quick game, I got a feeling, without the ball being thrown. Anna, at Versailles, we kicked this one around as a possibility of game of the week.
Yeah, it should be a great one.
Anna's coming in after a huge win against Delphos St. John's. Osborne's leading rushing tack for Anna Rockets, and QB Shappy is, second in the league in passing. Anna's predicted to win this one, Nate, by 2. And so that basically means it's a pick 'em. Versailles will look to get the losing taste out of their mouth after they just got finished playing Marion Local. For Versailles, I think the key for this is to get stops. Anything over 35 points, I got Anna. That's what I'm saying. And for my little insight for you listeners out there, St. Henry at Parkway. I don't know what the story is with Whirling. He was second in the league in rushing. He left with an injury. I don't know if he'll be back or not. That's going to be a big deal. St. Henry's a heavy favorite on paper. However, the Panthers still play hard. I'll tell you what, they just got to put 2 halves together. Panthers quarterback is QB is at 5th in the conference for passing yards. Bruns, I think, is his name. So shout out to him. Just keep putting it together, fellas. Keep working hard in practice, and let's see if it pays off this week. New Bremen 4-2 versus Minster, who is 5-1. Minster is a heavy favorite in this backyard rivalry. I'm pretty sure, Nate, if they turn the lights on at the stadium in each other's towns, they can see it. So
you're not that much wrong. I've been at both these stadiums a lot, and they're awfully close to each other.
The only reason I think about it is whenever I'm going that way, I never get to go any faster because I feel like I'm still in one town. I don't know how they have two schools, but whatever. Anyway, Minster has won, catch this, 40 times out of 53 years. That's in 72, by the way. Do it all QB. Steffi is top 5 in rushing and in throwing in the conference. New Bremen is led by QB Rogan Muthier, who is 4th in the conference right behind Steffi. New Bremen is going to have to score to make this game close. That's my opinion. If they can't, they've been hanging right around 14, 21, something like that. You don't put up more points than that, you're going to have a tough time beating Minster.
Definitely.
Coldwater 6-0 versus St. John's. Coldwater heads into Delphus. They're beginning the second half of their season. Blockberg and company, I think they're just going to continue to do what they do. The Blue Jays really are going to have to get stops. I'll keep saying that because I think it's going to be a key in some of these teams just have their offenses clicking, and if you can't get a stop, I just don't know how you can hang. That's going to be a key for St. John's.
All right, moving on to the NWCC. Perry is going to travel to Corey Rawson. Corey Rawson still looking for their first conference win, and Perry's going to look to build on their shutout. Corey Rawson, they continue to struggle ever since that week 1 victory. We'll see if they can get things turned around, but the Commodores playing a lot better football here lately. I imagine they're going to keep things rolling this week. Waynesfield Goshen against Elgin. Waynesfield 4-2 overall, 2-2 in the conference. Elgin 3-3 and 3-1 in conference play. Waynesfield looking to make it 3 in a row and stay alive in that NWCC race. And I'm sure Elgin knows that they cannot afford another conference loss if they want to keep their conference title hopes alive. USV, they're going to get a week off from the NWCC as they're going to play an out-of-conference game. And you got to imagine that, they're going to take Dayton Christian seriously. That's who they have this week, but they are heavy favorites in that game. And I'd imagine they're going to keep one eye on that Hardin Northern Ridgemont game because they know that Hardin Northern game is coming very, very quickly. If Hardin Northern can knock off Ridgemont after Ridgemont suffered their first conference defeat last week, that's going to lead just USV and Hardin Northern atop the NWCC. We'll see what happens.
What happens next?
Yep, Nolan Hobson will look to keep them there using his legs. That's the thing about Hardin Northern. You know what they're going to do. You know who you have to stop. And it's like we talk about Trenton Braza. You just can't do it. It's just they are so effective in what they're doing. Coach Cooper has them going on the backs of Nolan Hobson. Excited to see how that one plays out. And then to wrap up the NWCC, Ridgedale still looking for that first conference win, as in North Baltimore. One of them will get it this week as Ridgedale travels to North Baltimore.
Yep, we got homecoming week for the Spartans as they welcome Toledo Rogers. Lima Seniors just going to try to continue to throw it all the time. Put pressure on with points. And Janias Hall in the offense as Boog, Khalik, Kenyon Smith, they'll continue to march their way into an undefeated season.
Yeah, if they can win this week, they're going to move to 7-0 for just the second time since 1972. They're starting to get in a rare air here at Lima Senior.
It's awesome.
Ada looks to keep things going in the Blanchard Valley Conference. Levi Green continues to look better and better each and every week. Ada is a huge favorite as they are favored by 32 over Riverdale this week. Ada currently tied for second in the conference. A big week for the Bulldogs, and I think we're going to have a chance to talk to Levi Green. We've been interviewing players, and I reached out to him, hoping to have him on, talk about his season and Ada and this turnaround they have compared to maybe the last couple of years over there for the Bulldogs. And then Findlay, they are going to have to – I don't know. English is difficult. This is a Monday, folks. I apologize. But a week after leaning very heavy on the run game, they're going to have to face a huge test in Anthony Wayne. Anthony Wayne comes in undefeated. Findlay, they are going to be a large underdog in this one. Freshman
Landon was spinning it.
I know. Freshman QB Landon Eccleberry has looked good. He has done a nice job filling in for Ryan Montgomery, but they're going to need to have for him to have another massive game if they want to keep up with Anthony Wayne. And that is our Week 7 preview, man. A lot of big games. I expect a lot of big performances, and it's going to be a beautiful Friday night. I can't wait to see what happens.